Our first question of today is, what is a class? And write a program to create a class called employee consisting of name, designation, ID, salary as class variables. Using this class, print 5 employees information by reading the information of employee. So what is a class? A class is a user-defined data type which has data members and data function. So it's a user-defined. It's something similar to an integer, float and all that. So but you can define the data type. So it's the integer, float, all these data types are already provided by the operating system. Whereas this is something like a structure if you have worked in C. So this is a user-defined data type. And the unique thing about it is having the data members and the data functions. So the data members means all the variables, like what all variables you want to have. Like if it is an employee, then you will have the employee name, employee ID, employee salary, employee designation, all these things. So could be the data members of the class. Now the member functions are the one which are going to work with this data. So data members are the data variables, and members functions are the function used to manipulate these variables. And together these data members and member function defines the properties of behavior of the objects in the class. Now what does that mean is, the data members are the data variables and member functions are the functions which are going to go and manipulate, make changes. Like you want to input the data, then you would have something like set data. You want to get the data, from that particular class, then you will have get data. You want to display the information, you will have a display data. So something or functions of those names, and they uniquely set data will set the value to the data. So data variables. Basically, if you have an employee, then you will set the value for the employee name, the employee ID, the salary, all these things. Now here I have given an example of a simple C++ structure. So you can see here, this is a class name, the user defined name. You can give any name. So maybe an employee. So every class starts with a name class. So when you tell class, then it is telling that you are starting a class. So it's class, then you tell, okay, it's a class name, the name, unique name that you are giving to the class. Then you are actually telling access specifiers here. What does this access specifiers mean? The access specifier is something like whether the data is going to be private, whether it's going to be public, whether it is going to be protected, what is going to be, like all the variables, all the data members or functions that are going to come after that access specifier. Now in case if you don't have an access specifier, you don't specify the access specifier, then it's actually understood it's a private. The next one is data members, and the next one is member functions which are going to work with this data member. So I'll show you an example of this. So let us understand this here. Classes is a user-defined data type. In fact, objects are variables of type class. So class is just like your integer, but just being an integer, till you don't name the variable, you cannot use it. So you tell integer I. So then I becomes a variable and you can store some integer into the I. Similarly, by just creating a class does not specify anything. So you can use that class name. Maybe a fruit is a class. Then you can tell, okay, mango is a class object name. So now in Mango you can store some value. So objects are variable of type class. Once a class has been defined, we can create any number of objects belonging to that class. Like you have an integer. Okay. So you can make any number of integer. You can have I, j, k, or you can have a salary. You can have so many integers. The similar thing, once you have a class, okay, a class of type fruit, then or a class of type employee, you can have any number of employees. So that is you can create any number of objects. So once a class has been defined, we can create any number of objects belonging to that class. And each object is associated with the data of type class with which they are created. So each object is going to be unique. It's going to be having its own values, but it is going to be of the type, the class for which it is defined. Similar to like you have an integer again, like you have I, j. I will have its own value, j may have its own value. Okay, but both are of type int. The similar thing, the objects created of that class are of the type class, but they will have their own values. The syntax to create an object is not different than the syntax used to create an integer object in a C. If fruit has been defined as a class, then the statement is fruit mango. I'll show you a simple example. I'll show you a simple example, like you can see. Here I'm simple class example I want to demonstrate to you. So every actually the C++ program you will start using standard. So let us see standard and this particular program yesterday. The namespace here yesterday is the first line is telling, and you will include the standard library. So everything that you include in this particular all the bracket, the opening and closing, define like IOStream or whatever like you are writing, and all that particular file will get included in this particular system. All these data types basically using namespace standard. This tells that it makes the standard class library as global. So the standard class library, it will make this into a global space. So it will be accessible if at all any function of a standard library is being used, it will be directly accessible. You will not have to be specifically calling them separately, like you don't have, it is having a global space, global scope basically. Now in this class you can see this is a class and this is the access specifier. If you don't specify this access specifier, then it's private. So this string Greek name is actually a global space. So it's a public space. So anywhere from any program you can actually directly access this using the object. And this is a function, this is a member variable and this is a member function. Now this member function is also having a global space, like public. It is public and it is actually accessible from anywhere. So you can see here, what we are doing in this particular function print name, we are actually printing the variable, the data which is stored in Greek name. The main function is starting from here, and the main function is having the value. We are creating an object obj1. So geeks is the class, and you are creating an object of geeks class obj1, and you want to access this particular variable, that is geek name. You can just use the obj1, that is the object name dot specifier, and then you can use the variable name. Because this particular variable or data member, because this data member is having it's a public, you can directly access this from the main. So object.geek name and you are telling it's Ajay, and then you are calling object1 dot print name. So you are calling this function print name, which is again inside the class. So you are calling, and what this function does, it prints whatever object name the data member name you have given for this object. So the geek name, whatever you have set, that is what it is going to be printing. So when we run the program, it should actually print geek name is equal to, so it's going to be printing Ajay. So let us run this and check. So I'll just have compiled this, I'll execute this. Okay, so now I executed, I'll show you this. So just see, the geek name is Ajay. So it's a simple program. I hope you have understood the program. Very easy it is. So you have a class. Okay, you can have any number of variables. The string is there. You can have integer, I, j, anything you can use, and that same you can call it from here. So you want to make something like another variable. You can write here integer I. Okay, this becomes another data member. And you can also print, okay, that I, see out, and you tell, okay, I value. So we will have to set some value for this I. So you can also call this again similar to this obj1 dot I is equal to maybe 10. So let us compile this again. I'm compiling this. So it's successfully compiled. I'm building it and executing this. So now you can see the geek name is, so as it is given here, the geek name is Ajay, I value is 10. So this is the value we set, and this is what is come. So I hope you understood very clearly what this is. Program very well. Now the next one is, so we'll go back to our question actually. Write a program to create a class called employee consisting of name, designation, ID, salary. So there are 4 data members, name, designation, ID and salary are class variables. Using this class print 5 employees. So 5 employees value we should actually enter, and we need to print them. So okay, I will go back to this and I'll show you. There is a program now, and again include the top line of the program. You can see include iostream. So this iostream is having C in, C out, all that. Using namespace standard. So you're making standard library global with a global space, and here you have your class. So your class is actually, just trying to remove some spaces. Okay, so here these are the 4 variables, whatever they've told, whatever has been told in the question. So write a program and we need to create name, designation, ID and salary. So now you can see it is name, designation, employee ID and salary. So these are 4 variables which data members have created. Then it is, what is the other things they have asked? They asked, using this class print 5 employees information by reading the information. Now, so I have created an employee. This is a constructor. I will come back to constructor going forward. And this is another variable. This is another function called print. What this function does is it is going to print the value. Whenever we call this, it will print the value of name, designation, employee ID, and salary. So this is all this program is. I have created. There are two functions you can tell. One is a constructor, okay, and the other one is a function. Now, when you create an employee, so here it's a main function which gets executed whenever you start the program. So you are creating a employee is a class, and you are creating an object called E, and we are giving this because this constructor. If you look at this constructor here, this constructor, the first value is the character string, and the second one is again another character string. The third one is an integer, and the fourth one is a float. So here exactly that is what we are doing. Whenever we are creating an employee class, E, we are writing the first one is the string, so it's a name actually, and the second one is the designation, the third one is an employee ID, and the fourth one is the salary. So I have created another employee called F, and again I have written the name, the designation, the employee ID, and the salary. Similarly, I have created another employee G, and the name, comma, designation, comma, employee ID, comma, salary. So I'm calling so many H and I, and then what I'm doing is I'm doing it in reverse order. You can see I'm trying to print it first. So naturally first is Modi, general manager, then it's going to be Rahul, okay, then it's going to be Krishnan, then it's going to be Rajan, then it's going to be John. So this is an order in which it should be printing. I hope the program is very clear. It's the most simplest program I could think. I have just done that. And let us compile this and I'll explain to you. Okay, it's compiled and I will build this and I'll execute this. Okay, so you can see here now, if you go on top, the first one is, you can see the name Modi's come, general and employee designation, employee ID, and salary. Then Rahul, then designation, employee ID, and salary. Then you have again Krishnan, manager, employee ID, and salary. Rajan, deputy manager, employee ID, and salary, and so on. So you can see whatever we have given there, those all details have come. So it's working fine. So I hope you have understood, and the program is very simple. You can actually maybe note it down. It's very, very simplest program I could do for you. Okay, so let's go back and look at the next question.